The speech we just heard given by King in August 1963 was considered by some to have made possible the passage of the Civil Rights Act the following year. The politics behind the act are more complicated than this, and great effort was put forth by supporters in Congress, John Kennedy and especially Lyndon Johnson, who held office when the law was passed. But what King's speech reminds us is that, what the march reminds us, is that for progress to be made in a democracy, citizens must take responsibility. Voting every few years has some impact, but if we don't vigilantly keep pressure on elected officials, we are doing no more than electing our own tyrants. Martin Luther King was a great leader because he was committed. He was fully committed. He knew very well what the price of his activism would be. At one point, he told friends that he felt that he didn't have very much time left, and he was right. He knew that there were people who were willing to use violence to enforce a social order that robbed a great many people of their dignity. No doubt he was afraid much of the time. There are a very few of us willing to live with that kind of fear and to make such sacrifice for others. But history shows us that without such great leaders, such great people among us, injustice continues. And we should never forget that we, whether we are workers or women or people of color or any sort of American, we are standing on the bones of people who suffered and died so that we could enjoy the right to vote, the right to go to school, to work 8 hours a day instead of 14 hours a day. For the last 9 years, last 8 or 9 years, we've heard a lot about soldiers dying for our freedom, but we shouldn't forget people like King. What about him? What about countless others who suffered like him, but whose names don't appear in history books? Everyday citizens committing themselves without pay, without thanks, often facing social rejection, or economic deprivation, or violent opposition to make the phrase liberty and justice for all a reality. We should honor such people. But at least as important is that we remember the lesson that they taught us. Democracy means rule by the people. That's what it's supposed to mean. Not that you should support the government, but that you are the government. The nature of government, everywhere, is that it will be to some degree corrupt, that it often represents those with power instead of the common good. And the nature of power is that it won't be given up willingly. The low degree of political participation in the U.S. suggests that the common person here feels powerless much of the time. Most Americans have little faith in our legislators and don't approve of major policy initiatives that we hear about every day. What we lack is not a great president or a great senator, but committed leadership outside these official positions. So if you have it in you, step up, because although he'll never be replaced, we need more people like Martin Luther King. Thank you.
Program is almost over. I just want to say that I think this is one of the most moving things I've ever witnessed here at ECU in almost 10 years, so thank you so much for all being a part of it. Human Diversity Committee put this event on. Also wanted to thank Collage for the dance and Dr. Dansby and the ECU Gospel Choir for the beautiful singing all the way over here. We sang all the way over. Jomaine McKenzie, thank you so much for your interpretation and for lining up the other speakers. And most of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Gertrude Bush for agreeing to be our Grand Marshal today. So thank you so much for coming.